I know Rose is in the chat. Who else is there? Brendan? There is no audio in the video, apparently.
Let's try that. How's that? Can you hear now? See?
Is it better?
Now it's working. I actually have to turn the mute off.
All right.
So we could try that again. You want to go back to the start?
Sure.
Hi, welcome to Hurricane Homestead. But yeah, what I was saying is, in my previous live streams, I have a tendency to talk a little softly and passionately, and I'm more soft-spoken, and you're just like booming.
Which is weird, because I
weird.
think in real life we're very opposite.
But I think that's why I listen to you so well, is because you just demand my attention as soon as you start talking.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
So what I decided is I was gonna try something a little bit different. I'm gonna use my announcer voice.
Oh, when we were dating, you could do the movie phone voice. I always liked that.
The movie phone, you realize that a lot of people don't know what the movie phone is anymore.
I know.
Yep.
You would call, if you wanted to watch a movie, you'd have to call movie phone and, basically get this guy to read out all the listings of what movies were gonna be out that night and what time they were gonna start and what theaters they were gonna be at. And Shaphan could always do the best movie phone voice.
What is going on here? Oh. They're asking me questions on my text message. I thought that they were asking about live stream stuff. Anyways, so I'm going to use my announcer voice so that I can project it effectively and be able to keep up with you.
How's
that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, yeah, so live streaming. What's going on? What's happening? We've got lots of updates on the homestead.
Yeah, we do.
Just in the past week, Thor got sick.
Thor did get sick. Thor's our
He's our rabbit.
He's our bunny. Yeah, he's one of our rabbits, one of our breeders. And I don't know why this is a thing, but it seems like if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong when we go out of town.
True story. Yeah, we took a little jaunt, a little trip up to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to visit some friends up there, and got a call on our way up, and it was beyond like the point of turning around, from our daughter. She's like, I just checked on Thor, and he's lethargic and laying in the cage, and I put food in there, and he's not moving. And we're like, oh my goodness, because we had this problem.
We had this problem
a few months
before,
ago,
and unfortunately, that very sweet bunny who we all loved very much died.
Yeah, he died, and
So we were afraid that. And by the way, our daughter is 12, and she's very sweet, and she's a very good caretaker for our breeder rabbits. But we just knew as we were driving 4 hours away from home that day that we're going to get a call in a little while that the bunny had died. And we were really concerned about it. So,
but nope, she brought him inside. She put him in our little single cage inside and got him some little baby gas drops and some oats, and ended up nursing him back to health. And he's right as rain.
Man, he's perfect.
Back outside.
Just like always. I don't know how she did it, but she's also
yeah.
a great little nurse, apparently.
Absolutely. So, the chickens are firing on all cylinders, and I've been keeping track. So I've been keeping track of my eggs. I've got a report.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yep. So a report from last month. Let me look and see. We had like over 450 eggs last month.
We
alone.
did?
Yeah. So
wow. Okay.
And we went through about 6 pounds of feed per dozen.
Okay.
So that's how much it takes to raise eggs. 450 eggs out of 20-something chickens. That's pretty good. So, and then what else do we got? Oh, the helicopter.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I think
Please
I've
tell
got-
me you have a video.
I do have a video. Let
This
me look
is
and
the.
see.
This is. I mean, so we're from Tennessee, and we're not just from Tennessee. We're in like, I mean, proud to be from like one of the redneckiest parts of
Yeah, so
the deep south here.
Imagine if a redneck got a hold of a helicopter and said, I think this would be a good idea. All right, this is what happens.
This is crazy. So
That's like a 30-foot chainsaw on the end of that road.
can you even see it? It's hanging down like almost like look how. I can't believe
Yeah, so they're just coming through
around the power lines. They thought this seems like the best way to do this, and that we're going to take this really long, powerful chainsaw attached to a swinging rope on a helicopter on an incredibly windy day, and we are going to drop it in the few feet that we have between the power lines and the trees, and we're gonna trim up the trees that way because this seems, like
it seemed like a good idea at the time. Now, I actually talked with one of the guys today who was out there cleaning things up, and I was like, man, that helicopter pilot, he's got to have some cojones, doesn't he? And he's like, yeah, man, actually, like 2 years ago, he crashed.
oh my goodness, don't say that.
He's back up doing it again. I was like, oh my.
So
Yeah, I couldn't handle that. So, but yeah, that's. Oh, we did have an addition. To the
we have
homestead.
a new addition. That's
We
true.
have a new addition. Let me see if I can pull that up.
I don't know if it's a
I might be able to do it this
I don't know if it's a
This.
homestead.
This is our new addition to the homestead. This is Zelda. It's our rescue chameleon. Came from a home with some little boys, and it was very stressed.
A lot of little boys.
A lot of little boys.
5.
Very stressed.
And one on the way.
Around them, and wasn't thriving. And so the family asked the community, is there anybody that'd be willing to take it? And there weren't any takers. And my son's like, I think I kind of like a chameleon. And our son has a tendency to get a little overexcited and loud at times. And so we were a little bit concerned, but it's actually been a great visual representation of his volume, because when he starts to get a little too loud, the chameleon starts to turn brown and freak out, and then he calms down. So it's been great for us. We haven't had to yell up to the room and say, "Shut up," anymore.
We don't do that.
So yeah, I was expecting to add some new critters to the homestead, but I wasn't
You weren't
expecting a
expecting
chameleon.
a lizard, huh?
So, but yeah, that's kind of what we've got going on. Everything else is
I
pretty
love
much.
Zelda. I want one so bad.
Oh yeah, it's great.
She's actually super cool.
She really is.
So,
she's got a little personality and everything. Hey Cole, how you doing? Are you jealous?
No, he wants your dinner that
He wants my
you didn't
dinners.
finish.
It's
So,
okay.
yeah. So want a large tortoise. Oh, well, I can't help you. You can't live vicariously through us with the tortoise thing.
We've got a lot of turtles.
A lot of snapping turtles
Snapping
and
turtles
things.
in the creek.
But yeah, she's actually really cool. So she doesn't change color like, not all chameleons can just change color to whatever they're around. So if I put her next to my purple can, she wouldn't just turn purple. But she, she has her happy color and her upset color and a few in between. So
Yep,
she's fun.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun learning how to take care of
What's
it.
chameleon meat taste like?
I reached out to a guy that does a cover of the come on chameleon, because I wanted to play that
Are you
as
kidding?
our intro, and I didn't hear back from him. I
So
was
you
trying to
couldn't
get
do
the
it?
license, but that's okay. Such is life. But yeah, so on with the show. Guess what?
What?
We got a friend.
Oh,
Joining
is it time
us.
already? All right.
Yeah, it's on. We've got a list. She never looks
I
at
didn't.
the.
I
She never
read
looks
it.
at the
I
list.
read it to like right there.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right.
The rest
So-
is going to be a surprise.
But yeah, so we've got a special guest with us, and we're going to try to make this all work seamlessly and well. This is the first time for us having a special guest on our live stream.
Yeah.
So it's super exciting, and I love this guy to death. I've been following him for a while, and just the content that he creates is stellar. He's a fellow homesteader, fellow YouTuber, and just all around great guy. It's Ben Cummings with the Homegrown Show with Ben Cummings. I think he really likes his name, so he likes to put it in there, put it on everything. But Ben is originally from New Brunswick and is no stranger to unique ways of living. From 2017 to 2019, he lived in a bus, then a camper, and then traveled across Canada, where he fell in love with storytelling and photography. And now he's an accomplished cinematographer with Trek It Off-Road. The time not spent on their small homestead is spent riding ATV trails of Eastern Canada. Did you know that?
No.
So Ben, together with Nicole, want to safely raise their family on good food. Knowing where their food comes from and how their animals were treated is important to them. And they ultimately want to learn to be a little bit more self-sufficient, as they can go off-grid together, raising animals for meat and curating a community around their goals. I took that directly from his website.
Okay.
So,
All right.
word for word. But just to kind of show you some of the content that he's able to create, here's a little promo I'll throw up here.
What does 1 year on a homestead look like? We got a tuna tin filled with worms. It stinks. 100 chickens. What the heck are we gonna do with 100 chickens?
I'm not really helping at this point.
So, yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on with me.
All right, Ben, how you doing, man?
And it has been a long day. This time difference, I actually had to Google what Central Time was because I have been so Atlantic Eastern Time, and Central Time is a lot later than I thought it was when I said yes to this, you guys.
Oh man, I am sorry to hear that. Yeah, so you're over there. You're what, 2 hours ahead of us?
Yeah, I'm an hour ahead
careful.
or an hour ahead of Maine, and we're actually about a half hour away from Maine.
You're a half hour away from Maine, okay. I've got family that lives up there, up in New Hampshire and Maine and all that area. So we get to get up there every once in a while and enjoy the beauty, but not someplace I'd like to live. It's way too cold for me.
Yeah, tell me about it. Holy.
So there's an old saying that says surround yourself with people that are better than you, and maybe you'll be able to rise to the top as well. So that's what I'm trying to do tonight. Surround myself with people that are a little bit better than me. You're an inspiration and definitely somebody that I look up to in this whole homesteading community that we're kind of a part of together, and it's awesome to have you on. I appreciate you coming out.
I've been referring to Ben this week as your man crush.
My man crush?
Just
No,
a little bit.
that's Brad Paisley.
Is it
Still
Brad Paisley? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Brad and Ben can share a little.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, so Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do up there in New Brunswick, and
Wow. Well, like you said, I started out with this whole sort of self-sufficiency journey with the tiny house movement. I mean, it was probably about 10 years ago when I just got curious about how little I could live on. And that has really translated to my current life where, I mean, you're seeing shortages. It's getting really difficult to find certain things in the grocery store, and the world is just kind of chaotic right now. And we were even texting about it earlier that, like, regardless of your political affiliation or what you believe, we can all agree that prices are rising at the grocery store, and we all want the same thing, is we want our families to be safe and to be fed. And what I want is I want to do it as cheaply as possible so that I can focus my time on storytelling, shooting amazing videos, and being able to develop this community. I mean, we're a part of some Facebook groups together, and there's an amazing homestead community out there of people that are willing to help and want to help people. I mean, that's evident of our little seed swap that we did here recently, and we're just really excited to be able to share as much as possible with as many people as we can, because I love food. And I think it's really important that our friends and family stay fed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how many of us have entered into this whole homesteading and self-sufficiency journey because of food. That was one of the things that brought us into it, is because we started paying attention to what we were eating, and started paying attention to the stuff that was in it and the stuff that was not in it. And we started saying, hey, how can we be a little bit more responsible with the things that we're putting into our body? And I have yet to find it less expensive.
It's not less expensive.
For
sure.
us, it has always been more expensive. I think there will be a point where we can be a little bit more self-sufficient, and it won't cost quite as much. But so far, it's always cost more. Like my eggs. Everybody's complaining about $4 and $5 a dozen, and halfway through my month last month, I was like, you know what? It's only costing us $6 a dozen right now, so we're doing pretty good, just on cost wise. So, but that's awesome, and it's encouraging to know that a lot of times we all end up coming from that same strain. It seems like there's something that. There's something that follows along there. So, my goodness,
it's going to be one of those nights.
It's just like
it's just going to
so
be one
much
of those
activity
nights.
going on.
That's okay.
All kinds of fun stuff. So, but yeah, again, thank you, Ben, for being here and joining us. And we're going to be talking about how to start a homestead. And I know that you've got a lot of insight on that.
Are we talking about how to start a homestead or how to start a homestead?
Oh yeah, I forgot I have to do the homestead.
For us.
She says I have to do homestead because it's not. She doesn't think it's really a homestead yet. She's one of those purists that we were talking about earlier. She's like, "You're not off grid. You're not 90% self-sustainable."
Well, and for people who want to be a part of that thing too, like people want to see this stuff. And if I was to go completely off grid, you'd never hear from me. You'd never see the lovely pictures of me in my underwear running through the yard and junk like that. So it's a blessing.
That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless we lived up there in New Brunswick, and I don't want to do that. And so
We have chainsaws hanging from helicopters down here. Why would you want to
it's
move?
great. I'm sure that they've got some chainsaws up there too. It'll be all fine. So now I've been up there. I think I've been to New Brunswick once. It was when my family we actually drove up to Alberta, Canada, to do a Christian camp for Native American or Native First Nation people. I think that's what they want to be called now, up there, and then traveled from Alberta all the way across to Prince Edward Island, the top of Canada, or not the top, but like down towards the border there. That was a fun little trip, and then we went and spent a few days at Prince Edward Island. Went and visited Anne of Green Gables place or something like that. I don't know, and then and then came back down the eastern coast. So that was an exciting trip. My family was always doing crazy stuff like that. I got to see a lot of the world, but there isn't a place in the world that I would rather live than Tennessee. You should come visit sometime, though. It could be fun.
Actually, we've been talking about for the last little while. I mean, it's no secret the political standing of Canada recently, and it's just getting scary, to be honest. So we've been talking about different places that we could move, and getting citizenship or trying to move down to the States is something that we've been talking about. And I just don't know how to do it. I don't really make enough money to be able to just up and go, but it's something that we've definitely considered. And Tennessee has been on the list because I'm like, cold winters, get rid of them. Done. I hate winter so much. When it's 6 months, like I could do with a couple months, but 6 months long, like we won't see the end of our last frost until probably the 1st to 15th of June.
Oh, good gracious.
I don't even think that they're planning on us having a snow this season.
We had a little bit of snow.
We had like barely a ground covering.
We had one of the coldest winters that we've had in a very long time. It was like 3 days of -2 degrees.
All right, now they're trying to get him to come to Georgia. Tennessee's better than Georgia, so.
Is that Rose? I bet you that's Rose.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is.
Georgia's great. I like Georgia, but the devil went down to Georgia.
That's true.
So you can't go there. Oh, anyway. So yeah. Now, do you know what time it is, hon?
I have a feeling.
Do you know what time it is?
Yeah.
It's time. Oh, where'd my?
You can't do it.
I lost my little stream deck. All right, but wait. So it's time for what is in the news. How'd that go? You like that?
You kind of lost it with your build up because you didn't have your.
Oh, that's true. All right. So Ben, if you're not familiar with what is in the news, we're just going to read some highlights from some stories that maybe we found interesting to homesteaders, or that we feel like people should be aware of.
I haven't read any of these. I have no idea what
I was
you're
looking
about
through
to
them,
say.
and I didn't really find anything funny. I should have found something funny, but I didn't. Usually I try to have something, but a lot of these are downers, so don't get too depressed. But the first one.
What does 1 year on a homestead look like?
It's going to be
I
one
hit
of
the
those
wrong
nights,
button.
isn't it?
No, it's this button. This button? Yeah, see?
How about that?
Turkish leader acknowledges shortcoming in quake response. So if you weren't aware, a couple days ago, one of the most deadly earthquakes in the entire world happened in Turkey and Syria. The death toll is now approaching 12,000 people.
Yeah.
And the Turkish president, it says the president of, let me do my announcer voice.
Okay.
The president of Turkey on Wednesday acknowledged shortcomings in his country's response to the world's deadliest earthquake in more than a decade, as hope dwindled that more survivors would emerge from the rubble of thousands of toppled buildings. How was that?
Wow, that's pretty good.
But yeah, it's a really sad story. There, here 2 days into it, and anybody that's still missing has maybe a 75% chance of survival if they're found. If we go another day or two, that percentage is going to drop to
Just
about
keeps dropping.
20%.
So this is, my dad has in recent years had a fascination with just sort of tracking different earthquakes and things. And so this was, you know, they told me about it before I even had heard on the news. And it just kept getting worse and worse. Like all the news that came out of this got so much worse. And just earlier today, I got a message from my parents that said there's a 60-mile crack and Turkey has been moved 9 feet to the west.
Yeah, so I looked and I saw a satellite image of the quake, because there was like a satellite image of it, and you could see the entire landmass turn into like liquid and just like
wow,
shifting. It was unbelievable.
I mean,
I think it was like a 7.8 magnitude earthquake.
Well, there were many.
Yeah.
Many earthquakes, and so just
yeah, be keeping Turkey and Syria in their prayers, and the whole area has been devastated by war
Absolutely.
and civil war and everything for years, and this is just icing on the cake. So definitely something to
I mean, it's
be aware
absolutely catastrophic and heartbreaking.
But yeah, I mean that's one of those things that, I mean, it's difficult to prepare for, but that can happen anywhere. I know that it's more likely to happen on a fault line and things like that, but that can happen anywhere. And yeah, I don't think that our house would hold up in an earthquake.
Well, that's okay.
I built it, so I know what it's made of.
That's true.
Let's see, what else do we got in the news? Oh yeah, this one. A Wyoming woman.
A Wyoming woman.
Let's see. My poor computer can't handle Ben's greatness. A woman plotted with neo-Nazis to attack the power grid in, I think it was Baltimore, Maryland. I think that's
Really?
yeah. So a Maryland woman spent months conspiring with neo-Nazi leader based in Florida to plan an attack on Baltimore's power grid, hoping to further their racist mission, law enforcement officials said on Monday. The plan was thwarted when both suspects were arrested last week, adding to a growing list of similar cases as authorities warn the American electrical grid could be a vulnerable target for domestic terrorists. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that I've been saying for a while, is that our power grid is super vulnerable. I mean, people just take it for granted. But, I mean, so vulnerable that, you know, a tornado, a terrorist attack, you know, anything like that can take it out. And it'll be days at best, but probably weeks before actual power gets, you know, reestablished. And if people aren't prepared for something like that, then you're just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Because it affects everything. It doesn't just affect, you know, being able to turn your lights on and keep stuff frozen in your freezer. It affects transportation. It affects, you know, power. You know, everybody going to these electric cars now, and they're like, oh, wait a second, our power grid can't handle this. So how's the power grid up there in Canada, Ben?
Canada?
I mean, it's vulnerable like anywhere else, but I think it's something that even the earthquake in Turkey, that it really boils down to the community that you're able to have and the people that surround you. Because I mean, I'm a huge advocate for getting out of cities. Like, I don't like the city. I was in Fredericton, which is a very small or relatively small city, yesterday for work. And I'm just not a fan of being around that many people that I don't know, and that many vehicles. But I think if you have a really close-knit community of people that you can trust and that you can work with, I mean, regardless of whether the power goes out or you have a massive natural disaster, hopefully you've either got enough food stores or you've got enough relationships to be able to, okay, I've got a wood stove, you've got chicken in your freezer, okay, I don't have power, so let's cook up all that chicken, or let's cook up all your canned goods like I got behind me. Mm-hmm. And I think if you have a massive community that's behind you and able to push you and support when devastation hits, I mean, it takes a village to raise a kid, but it takes a village to live your entire life. And that's what, like, being a homesteader, I think the misconception is, well, I think the misconception is that we're not supposed to be around people, that we're kind of supposed to go off grid and into the woods by ourselves And
Wouldn't that be the dream,
if
though?
that is, I no, because I love certain people. I mean, there's probably I could count on my hands and toes the number of families that I'd want to spend enough time with to be off grid and away with. But I think the value of having people around you. I mean, that is the reason that generations would have. You'd have the family farmhouse, then you'd have the parents and the
Yep.
kids and the grandkids, everybody living on the same lot, the same acreage.
Absolutely.
And if you have a community that you can work together with, huge
Well,
potential.
and
Yeah.
it's almost a necessity in a situation like that. And I can sincerely see us even going backwards in time, not in time literally, but backwards to, when things functioned more like that. I can see that being a necessity, unfortunately, possibly not even in the too very far future here. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it could definitely get to the point where it is mandatory for survival to
yeah,
rely more on your local community rather than that extended
yeah.
network of provisions.
Well, and as much as I like to recluse, I don't think that we were really meant to live that
No,
way. I think
no,
that we
we're
were
not.
meant to live in community with others and to help each others and serve. And
I'm very much a people person.
I'm not.
Yeah, I got out and I'm in sales, so I get to meet a whole bunch of people every single day, and I had a 2-hour window where I got to go and meet 20 different business owners. So it was
Oh.
great. I had a great conversation with each one of them, and it was amazing.
That's so. Believe it or not, I am an introvert. And despite what I portray online, I am mostly an introvert, and I could probably count on one hand the number of times I've left the house this year.
That's this one.
That would be me for sure. Yep.
She's like,
It's true, and I have various business endeavors and things that I do mostly from home and online, and I do have this personality that I have to pull out of myself, and it is deep in there, you
Yeah.
know, but I have to pull it out to be able to be effective in those ways. So I can definitely relate to that.
yeah, yesterday she was like feeling a little bit down, and I was like, "Hun, do you just when I'm finished up with work, do you wanna just go out and do something? You know, I'll just take you out." And she's like, "No, I've been talking to
I
people
think-
online all day. I just want to sit here and do nothing."
Yeah. I think my actual answer was why? Why would I want to do that? Like,
I'm in my pajamas. I'm
I'm
comfortable.
gonna stay in them. Yeah.
Well, and I
Oh,
think
that's
this time of year, you've got an excuse for it too. I mean, look
Yeah.
what happened in New Hampshire. I think they set a cold weather record this past week.
Yeah, that was. How did you know? That was my other news story. It's like you were.
I've got it
reading my
open on the
mind.
other window. I was giving you a segue.
Oh, you were giving. Man, what
Thank
a
you.
friend.
We should keep him on all the time to keep you on track.
Right? Yeah, but in New Hampshire, a national wind chill record. Do you guess how cold it was, hun?
It's got to be negative something ridiculous. I don't know.
All right. So like, just guess.
A negative. What would be a record? Let me think. Negative 100.
That's too warm.
Too what? It's too warm?
Too warm.
That's too warm.
That's too warm.
I don't know. I don't want to guess anymore. What was it?
So, the record was set in Mount Washington Friday night when it felt like minus 108 degrees
Ooh.
Fahrenheit. What is that in Celsius?
Oh, I don't know. Let me do the conversion. But that is, did you see videos of that? That is super cold.
Yeah, it is like crazy. I think there's a video right here.
Negative 75 degrees Celsius.
See if it'll actually play. It might not.
It's
No, it's just going to play an ad. Stinking ads.
The wind ripping on that mountain, like the wind that I saw was crazy.
Yeah, it was. So I've got family that live up there in New Hampshire, and I could not imagine, like even like being inside a house with that level of cold. I mean, our house, if it was negative 108 degrees outside, it would probably be like just negative 40 degrees or something like that inside. right?
Yeah, I think we weren't really happy when it was -16 here.
Was it -16? It was -16. The high was -2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. So, yeah, I don't think it's gonna
It was negative 58 Fahrenheit with the wind chill here last week.
Oh,
Oh, good gracious!
I was doing the conversion. It was brutal. It was so cold that my mom, who's adopted one of my little chickens, brought the chicken inside, and it lived
Really?
with her for a week.
So when it was just in the negative, like 16, -2, for the high, our chickens did all right, except for our rooster. He's a little stupid or stubborn. I'm not sure, one of the two. But he was the only one that just went outside, and because the ground was cold, he decided to fly up to the top rail of our little run and just like hunkered down and held onto that with the wind blowing at like 30 miles an hour. And poor guy got frostbite so bad.
we did try to
His
relocate him.
His whole crown, all the little fingers on it have just fallen off now completely. So he looks like he's got like this, like, whoop. Poor guy. But that's all right. He's the angry one.
He is, yeah.
He's a little vicious sometimes. Has to get the boot every once in a while. But yeah, so that's what's in the news. It was cold. The ground was shaky, and somebody tried to take out the power grid. So.
And it wasn't even the guys with the helicopter.
And it wasn't even the guys with the helicopter.
That wouldn't have been intentional.
No, but I mean.
So their truck said power grid services.
Yeah.
On the trucks that were coming by to like clean up after the helicopter, and I was like,
This
could
is
go either
interesting.
way. I don't know.
But there was like 15 trucks, and I'm like, they're just expecting something bad to happen.
I think so. But my favorite thing about it is we live in the tiniest little small town in Tennessee, and we have a friend who lives in the tiniest little small town in Alabama.
Yes.
And these trucks were from her small town in Alabama, came up here to Tennessee, and I was like, well.
And you were just down there last week.
Yep.
That was funny.
Rednecks stick together, I think.
But you know what? We're past time for No, we're right on time. Well, 6 minutes. That's not too bad.
All right.
So you know what it's time for now?
What?
Our main topic of conversation. You know what we're talking about, right?
Ben.
No.
No?
No, he's talking to us about how to start a homestead.
Oh, good. We need somebody to tell us that.
So, we have been on this homesteading journey, kind of quasi the past 7 years or so is when we moved out here.
I don't think we really got serious about it until
didn't really
about
get-
2 years ago.
Yeah, about a couple years ago, we really kind of started, saying, hey, we need to take action and start doing some stuff about this. So we still have a lot to learn, and Ben, he's a great storyteller. He's kind of on that journey along with us, starting a couple years ago. But he, when I was thinking about this topic, he's got a number of videos that he put out on the topic of starting a homestead and how to do different things. And so I was like, you know what, I'll reach out to him, see what his thoughts are, and see if he'd want to join us. So Ben, welcome to the Hurricane Homestead live stream, and we're looking forward to you telling us how to start our homestead.
Homestead.
That's
homestead.
right. That's right. Well,
Yep.
we already have a homestead. We're just trying to make it a homestead.
Yes, exactly. So, but no, I mean, as far as you and Nicole, when you guys decided to get started, what was that like? How did you and your wife decide to start on that homestead process?
Goodness, it wasn't really a single decision. I think it's constantly these additive decisions that happen over time. That's like, all right, let's expand what we can do. The overarching goal has always been self-sufficiency. I realized back when I lived in a camper and in a bus that I could very happily live tiny and live with very little money. And I want to do that. I love what I do right now. I don't make a ton of money at it, but I make enough to survive and pay for our family and food and groceries. And if we can live on very little money, I mean, if I could take it as a challenge and live off of $10,000 a year, I would do it if that'd pay my mortgage and everything I need to have paid. But the goal has always been self-sufficiency. And that is so much as how much can we do ourselves that is feasible And then how much can we recruit our community, and okay, let's barter and trade and do this outside of the money system, because I think there are people who have a genuine heart for other people and want to help, and they have an ability. I mean, I think I still got them here. My seeds for my seed swap. Like, we just put on a seed swap, and we had people, I just thought it would be people having fun, sending seeds that maybe they had saved. And I had more than enough people message me and say, hey, I've got extras. Can I just send them? And now we're sending them to a couple of community gardens that we're able to send extras to, because food insecurity has become huge in the last couple of years. And I think it's in large part why people want to homestead. They want to raise animals. They want to know where their food comes from, and they want to make good food. And it's easier to do that when you can afford it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, a garden is a great way to kind of get started, because it doesn't take a lot of front end cost. It can take a lot of cost. I mean, if you do it like we did that first time that we had our little house in the suburb, we went and built a garden box out of, what was it, 2x8s, and built this raised garden bed and made it look all nice and pretty, and then we filled it with dirt that we bought from the store, and then we filled it with compost.
We lived in the middle of a neighborhood. Like, this was really the best solution at the time. But
and then we watered it. I figured up the cost on that, and by the time that we got all of our squashes and our one tomato plant planted and everything, it ended up costing us about $600 for a little garden box. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that salad's worth it.
Were you on city water at the time?
We were on city water. So this is when we lived in town, and we just had like a little backyard and put in one little raised garden bed. Yeah, it was expensive, but it was a learning experience. But it can get expensive to do it that way.
It's so foreign to me. I've always been on a well my entire life. My family has owned a well, so I don't know what that's like to pay a water bill. It's weird.
Yeah, it's amazing to not have to pay a water bill. What's not amazing is when the well goes out and you have to stand there and pull a submerged well up 150 feet
in the rain.
In the rain.
In the rain. That was fun. That was a fun day. There's a video on that.
Is there a video on? I don't think that we had a video on that.
I think we did.
We did?
At one point, didn't we?
Maybe.
I don't know.
think so. I think I was
Well, I'm sure it'll break again and we can make a video that time.
I'll see what I can do about that. But yeah,
all right, for those keeping track at home, that is a tick against me moving to Tennessee. All right, there we go.
Oh, but yeah, that's one thing that you got to think about, especially when you're moving out into the country is, hey, where's your water going to come from? Where's your sewer going to go, right? Hopefully not in the same spot.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not Bear Grylls here. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what understand that whole food insecurity thing and wanting to be a little bit more self-sustained. We do a lot of things to move that needle forward, so to speak, in becoming more self-sufficient. But what's been one of the more challenging things that you've found in your homesteading journey here in the past few years?
The hardest part, and I think you'd probably agree with me on this, has always been finances. And I think given the world that we live in today, I mean, the last 10 years, what has been preached across culture has been this hustle culture to make as much money as possible. And I've seen enough people, from Jim Carrey to these popular guys that are making tons of money, that are just so unhappy. And I've started to discover and search, and what makes you happy? What genuinely makes you happy? Because it's certainly not money. Is it family? Is it friends? Is it actually feeling rewarded at the end of the day, whether you spend $600 on a little garden box, or whether you are able to spend extra time with your family because you saved a little bit of money by growing your own food, or bartering for this or bartering for that. So the hardest part has been financial and investing in everything, the upfront cost for things. I mean, you can look at things like Clarkson's farm, like we were talking about earlier, that he had bought $1 million Lamborghini tractor. I don't own a tractor, period. I can't afford a tractor. So it's those things that you think you might need on a homestead that you end up,
we had that conversation already.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's just things that you think that you may need, or you're like, okay, this will undoubtedly they'll make your life easier, but when you can afford it down the line, once you figured it out, and it's actually putting in that hard work, that's been very hard. I mean, our first year growing a garden, we ended up with weeds. I killed everything, and I keep saying this, and I like this clip because I recorded me walking into the garden and saying, we killed corn. I didn't know you could kill corn. I thought corn, you just plant it and it grew a stalk, and then you leave it there until you can pick it and either feed it to your animals or whatever. But it died. And
we just put it in a jar around here.
In a jar?
Corn in a jar. You don't know that reference?
No.
Liquid corn?
Moonshine?
Oh, liquid. Oh, I got, yes, I understood.
We live about...
I'm really like focused on like this corn thing. I was like, what?
Yeah, we live about, about 6 miles from a still that it's legal now.
Yeah.
A moonshine still.
Is it?
But it's
yeah.
been
Is that a tick in favor of Tennessee now?
Yeah, well, the thing about, when people talk about moonshine, they get it really like twisted that like, I'm going to be a redneck and be drinking moonshine, but it's a good fuel. It's really great fuel that you can use to burn. Like that ethanol burns, I mean, very hot and very well, but yeah, that is, okay. All right. 1 against, 1 for.
Got it.
We'll keep track.
Sounds like a plan. But no, I agree. Finances is always a struggle, and it always seems to be a preventative thing. So when somebody's looking at, I can't do that, it's going to cost so much, it's going to cost, I got to buy the land, or I got to buy, the tractor, I got to buy the animals, I got to buy the fencing and things. And it's always been that barrier between taking that first step because of the fear of the cost. But I know personally that I found that, you can mitigate that by taking some alternative methods. Have you found any successful alternative methods than just spending money? You had mentioned things like bartering and stuff like that. Have you found success in that?
Pallets, baby. All the pallets. I use pallets for everything. My house looks like, I'm even talking to Nicole about us putting sheep and pigs, and I'm like, I don't want to pay for fencing. As pretty as it would be for me to get an electric fence or get a fence put in, I'm just going to use pallets. They're cheap. They're quite strong, some of them. And you can find them I got a good line on them. I don't tell anybody where I get my pallets from because I got a pallet guy that I can get about as many as I want.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always good to know a guy and bring him a dozen eggs and be like, shh, don't tell anybody else. Right? Oh,
exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, pallets and just scavenging resources and things of that nature is great. If you live on land like we do, we've got a ton of cedar trees. So I remember years ago, this was even before we had the YouTube channel. One day, I don't know, you were out of town or something, or you were at your mom's.
That's never good.
It was a bizarre day, but I was bored and my son was bored, and so I was like, tell you what, let's go build a useful shed.
Oh, yeah. This
so,
is kind of like the homestead. It's a useful shed.
So I went out with my son and we ended up taking down 3 good-sized cedar trees, limbing them up, shaving them down, and in a day we turned 3 what once were living cedar trees into a useful shed to hold all of our lumber underneath. Yeah. And scavenged some old tin off the fallen down barn and put it on as a roof, and it held up for about 2 years before all the tin fell off, and now it's just the cedar trees standing there. I got to put a new roof on it, so it's not so useful anymore. But it was a really useful shed. My wife comes home and she's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm building something useful. It's a useful shed." But being able to do things for cheap or for free, I think that's important. And it just means thinking outside of the box.
We have garden boxes now.
Yep.
We have a garden in our field in the grounds, but we also have two
raised garden.
Garden beds, raised beds, and you built those off of just stuff that was on our. I really feel like you built those again because we were bored.
Yeah.
it was COVID and we couldn't go anywhere. So
That was, I
he
think,
was like, let's go take down some trees and build.
that was the first video that I recorded and posted to YouTube. I actually posted it originally on my personal channel, and but it's cutting down a cedar tree for lumber or something like that.
But I mean, lumber prices are so high right now. I mean, that's one of the ways that I feel like we save.
Yeah.
It's just by utilizing what we have here on the property already.
Absolutely.
Because we don't have a pallet guy.
Well, there was that one guy, but I hadn't talked to him in a while.
Okay.
So, anyways, remember. So, funny story about pallets, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But since you brought it up, Ben.
It's your fault, Ben.
So we were asked by a family that we were close to help them decorate a church for their wedding. And so my wife had this great idea to build a pallet wall to kind of act as backdrop and put fairy lights in it and tulle and pretty things and everything on it. And so I was commissioned to be the builder of this pallet wall. And it was going to be like 10 or 12 foot tall. And we had it all worked out. And so we went and collected all these pallets for it and ended up getting it all together, and it looked great. And then we bring it into this church and we get them all set up, and we take a step back and we look at it, and one of these pallets has spray painted across it. F.
It does.
Right?
Yep.
And I was like, we're going to have to do something.
You couldn't tell. Like, we were up close to it the whole time. You could not tell until you stepped back. You're in the church, you know, like, what are you supposed to do now?
Amazing.
It was great. I'd forgotten about that.
So be careful about what your pallets have spray painted on them when you get them. So.
Unless that's how you feel about the pigs. I don't know.
Oh, man. So with challenges out of the way, what's some of the more rewarding things about this homesteading journey that you guys have been on?
As rewarding as building a pallet fence can be, or building just about anything, I think as men we kind of need that outlet of being like, I built something. But being able to grow your own food, to go out to the garden, to pick your own food and to can it, and the flavor difference, whether it actually tastes different, I can't actually tell you. But I went hunting for the first time this year, and I guarantee I didn't hit one of my shots. None. But we went waterfowl hunting, and I went with a bunch of guys, and they have tons of birds, so they gave me some. And that goose tastes so much different than any other kind of goose and any other kind of bird, because it is just, you went and you hunted that, or you grew the lettuce in your garden. So the most rewarding thing is being able to, from a little seed, get something from that. Even behind me, we've got we're trying onions this year. Onions are something that I've always been nervous of, because you got to start them so early here to get them to grow, because we have a short growing season. So we're trying it, and to see those little things pop up, like they are less than an inch tall right now, and I'm like, I did it. Yeah, I have an onion. And I've got like 6 months before I actually have an onion, but I'm still excited.
Got an onion for a very small cheeseburger. Oh, that's great. You're exactly right. I mean, I feel the same way when I get to go out and collect eggs from the chickens and back. Woohoo! We got 23 this morning versus 14 yesterday, or whatever it is, and then crack them open and eat them right there, and just thinking like, yesterday this was inside a chicken.
It's great.
It's amazing. It's, when you think about it, how cool is the world around us that we're able to do these things. Like, I pull a potato out of the ground and I can eat it. Like, what was it? 100 days ago, that was like a half a potato. She thinks I'm funny because this is.
Are you not
exciting
fascinated? But I'm fascinated. But I'm just sitting here grinning from ear to ear, because I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever.
I know. But she likes being able to make things.
I do.
She doesn't care about like producing stuff. She likes to take the things and make stuff.
And make something out of the things.
Yeah, she's been making bread and been really enjoying making bread here recently.
Milling the grain and making the bread, completely from just, grain that we milled ourselves. Didn't grow it ourselves. And, He really wants to grow wheat this year,
I was
and
like, let's grow some
like,
wheat. You're all into like milling this grain and everything. Let's grow some wheat. And she's like,
I'm like, let's just not kill the tomatoes. How about that? Let's do that.
I'm like, but we've already killed the tomatoes before. Let's try a new
Let's kill
crop.
something else. We are not great gardeners, but we do work really hard. We get better every year, and I think that we'll never give it up. But we are definitely not naturally great gardeners by any stretch.
Never had a green thumb. I remember seeing one of Ben's videos where he goes out there and he's like, "This is hard."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is. It's surprisingly hard to somebody who's never really done it before.
Yeah.
But it's possible to learn. I mean, if it's possible for me to grow potatoes successfully and ruin Thanksgiving, then
Hey.
I mean, I think it's possible for
That's a whole
anybody.
other story. Don't get
It
into
is
that.
A whole other story. All right. So Ben, what advice would you offer somebody that is interested? You know, I was talking with Holly this week just about how many people have come to us asking about, you know, how do we start this journey? What do we do? Like, what are some of the things that we should be considering? What's some advice that you would give somebody that's interested in starting this whole journey of homesteading, or a little bit self-sufficiency, or just recognizing their need for something that's a little bit more than what they can, you know, accomplish through going to the grocery store and things like that? What would you recommend to them?
I think it really starts with taking inventory of what's important in your life, and it takes a lot of time and effort to dedicate to being able to grow something. I mean, our growing season, I think, is 90 to 120 days here where I live. So in order to maximize that growing season, we need to plant early. Here, growing behind me, you need to really invest time and energy and research. And something profound that I read a few years ago said that farmers, even career farmers, if they've been farming most of their life, they've only done 20, 30, maybe 40 different crops, because they only have one season a year. And that really struck me as, okay, I can do this, because in the off season, you can learn and absorb as much information as you can. And I think it's easy to glorify people either on YouTube or TV, or you're looking at stuff that you really want that Lamborghini tractor, or you really want something fun, or you want the glamorous chicken coop that's always going to be full of poo. Like, it does not turn out the way that you expect it to be. So if you can be ready for those quick changes, for things to die. I never thought that I would be so close to and now okay with death as I am now, because when I first got chickens, for me having to cull a rooster, like, I cried out back when I had to off a rooster, because I was like, I feel so wrong taking a life. And now it's old hat. Like, I get used to it. When you've killed 100 chickens in a day, I mean, it's just, okay, you take the head off, you bleed it out, and it's just done. But it's still having that respect for your food, whether it's growing mealworms, like I got mealworms behind me here, for your chickens to be able to invest in a better quality feed. It's such a fun hobby, and it's a fun lifestyle. So I think if somebody's looking to get into homesteading, get into being more self-sufficient, take that inventory of what you want to do, whether it's grow a garden, keep chickens, keep animals, and then learn as much as you can before diving in, and then just start. So many people don't start because they're afraid, or they think that they're going to screw it up. And I guarantee you, you will. You're going to screw it up bad, and it's going to be fun, because you're going to learn, and you're going to get dirty, and you're going to get hurt. I've been stung by bees. I've pooed in my garden. I have, goodness, what haven't I done? I have blown myself up. I have run myself over. When I tried to change my tires on my truck for the first time, I got about 2 kilometers down the road before I had 3 tires on my truck. So you will make mistakes.
Oops. How tight is this lug nut supposed to be on? Finger tight, right?
I didn't have a torque wrench, so I was just like, it's good, like, it's tight, right? Anyway, I didn't know anything, and I was lucky we were still on the back roads, and I had a neighbor come, and I was like, my truck like this, like, okay, this is,
what am I supposed to do
this is fine.
now?
See, we need people.
Yeah, we absolutely do need people, and that's the important thing that I would say is, you know, do that research, but you're exactly right. Don't get stuck in the research. Do enough research to pull the trigger, and find somebody to walk alongside and see how they're doing things, because everybody's got their been the one thing that has driven me the most crazy about this whole journey is there is so much information out there on the right way to do something that it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to be wrong. And so, finding somebody in your area that's local to you, that's maybe done it before, done something similar before, that you can kind of follow along or use as a mentor, so that you can, know what works for them. Because it doesn't really matter, ultimately, if it works for you, then that's what you should be doing, kind of thing. So. But yeah,
I had a friend of mine who keeps bees tell me that if you ask 5 different beekeepers the same question, you will get 5 different answers.
Yeah.
Because there is so much diversity, and no matter what you're doing. I mean, Brendan, I think he's in the chat. He's trying to teach me how to grow microgreens right now, which I'm apparently horrible at, which again is another thing that, according to everything online, just add water and then you get sprouts.
Right.
Not that easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried that with potatoes the first year, and I think I had 1 potato plant grow, and I didn't realize.
I think that's true.
Oh, you gotta sprout them first. I didn't realize that. So I had 6 potato plants just rot in the ground, and one of them popped up. But out of that one, I got some really nice little golden yellow potatoes. It was delicious. How are your bees doing with that crazy cold weather, by the way?
Oh, I was so nervous because our first year, we put out a video early 2022 about our sort of disdain for beekeeping. I had got bees really green. I mean, I put a video out 2 years ago of getting my bees, and I got a lot of flack from the beekeeping community because I had no idea what I was doing. And of course, I ended up killing my 2 hives. There was a lot of issues. They were a weak hive going into winter, and then they were too close to the river, so the cold killed them. But I was just into my hives, not into, but I was near them. Yeah. So I went over and I tapped on them, and you hear the buzz, and I was pumped. There was a couple of girls that I dug out around the entrance, and I saw the girls fly out, and I was like, I did it. I mean, we still get a month and a half, 2 months of winter, but I did it. They're alive.
They're still alive. They got through the brunt of it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I went out and looked at my bees this morning. We've had some struggles with our bees. We ended up having to put them into a smaller box and combine everybody together, but they managed to make it through. I popped the lid off the top because it was 60-something degrees today. It was really nice. And they weren't very happy with me doing that.
Did you hear that? Wow, that's another one for Tennessee right there.
It's still cold here.
Don't worry, it'll be cold again tomorrow.
Tennessee doesn't know what it wants when it comes to the weather.
It's supposed to be really nice for the next week or so, next 10 days. But yeah, I popped it open, and it took all of about 3 seconds before them to say, "What are you doing? Close that back up." Yeah. And they started flying back out at me. But it's great. So her father actually is a great beekeeper. He's taken a master class and things like that. So he's been kind of mentoring me in that whole process. And hopefully this spring we'll be getting, I think, 10 more hives out here.
We'll see. On
the property. We'll see. It'll be fun. So that'll be exciting. I'm really excited to get our own honey. That's what I'm hoping for. So.
We are starting to make the switch completely away from granulated sugar towards honey. We're running low on honey right now, but we're trying to make the switch completely for all Nicole's baking, for everything I make. I've been making some mead and a couple of ginger beers and stuff. So if we can make that switch, we're really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's and
that would be my dream would be to be able to completely eliminate, refined processed sugar in our home completely. So we're already doing that with the bread, which is nice. But there's and other things too that we do on a regular basis, but more to come. So that's, I get that.
Whatever you do, don't decide to start selling your honey at farmers markets, because then you'll sell all of your honey and you won't have any left for yourself. So.
It's true. Dad, if you're watching, sorry.
Yeah, that's what he ended up doing. He thought he had another box of honey. And so he went and gave his last box to the
representative at the farmer's market.
Farmer's market, and come to find out that was his last box. And he's like, "Oops."
Oh no.
72 and Georgia did beat us today. They were 72 degrees
Yeah,
today.
it was so nice out. Yesterday it was beautiful. Today it was a little dreary, but it was still nice enough to walk around. So, but yeah, so starting a homestead, you heard it here first, and says, just do it. Start where you're at, right?
Yeah, I think that's something that we end up saying all the time is just don't do nothing. You know, do something. It doesn't have to be the right way or the best way, but just get in there and do something. And
yeah, and research about it, learn about it,
Sure.
so that you know what you're getting into, but don't be stifled by.
But don't
that
be afraid to
research.
put a plant in the ground, you know, or seeds in the in your starts, you know, and whatnot. I mean, just do something and see what happens.
Know that you're going to make a mistake, but
And
know
just
that,
keep making them. For,
but know that other people have made mistakes too,
Yeah.
and they're still alive,
That's,
even if they only have 3 wheels on their truck.
that's true.
I'm doing all right. Considering the stories that I have, and my goodness, I'm not even 30 yet. And the stories that I have and live to tell the tale, whoo.
Yep, it's amazing. We are a very resilient people, and people don't give us enough credit, I don't think. Oh, that's for sure. All right. Oh, we're about we are out of time. We've gone over the hour. But one more question for you, Ben. 100 chickens. What in the world possessed you to like start off with 100 chickens?
Okay.
She thought I was crazy
That's
for
what you
starting
started
with 12.
with? You started with?
Yes. Yes. So
Hey,
it
do
was
something.
it was a logical progression. Okay, there's a whole film about this that I'm actually in the process of selling the film, so it will be available, the whole story. But
Okay.
the abridged version is you eat about 1 chicken a week, roughly. And there's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
And between my parents live next door and Nicole and I, it just made sense. I was going in and I wanted to do 50 because I was like 25 and 25 makes sense. That's doable. 50 is doable. If you can
absolutely.
contain them,
The
that's not too
chicken math
many.
got him.
And well, we were there and we were filming and I was excited. And whenever my mother and I get together, it just gets really dangerous because we'll just look at each other and we'll know, like, we don't even have to speak. We'll just be like, you want to do it? And I was like, maybe we should do it like 75 because she's like, yeah, but 50 each per
And then once
for
you're at
1 year.
75, it's just like, why not make it a nice round 100?
Exactly. And I had enough money in the wallet and I was just right on the counter. I was just like, bang, give me the rest. So
It's
I took
happening.
Boom.
two batches of 50 chickens. I brought them home and man, it was so wild because we had predator issues. We lost a ton of them, but it was super rewarding to learn from all of those mistakes. I mean, they were relatively costly, but it was such a rewarding experience to just dive in and experience it instead of doing like 6 and then being like, shoot, I wish I had done 12. We did
Yeah.
100 and we're like, okay, I wish I had done 50 and we can do that next year.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we first got our chickens, I was going to the store and she was thinking I'd get like 4.
Yeah, we agreed on 4. That's
And
what we
I was
agreed
thinking
on.
I'd get 6, and I came home with 12, and she's like, "What?" So I
Yeah.
can't imagine what she would have done if I came home with 100.
The first time that I got chickens ever, I had talked to my mom. I was living with my parents. I was in my earlier 20s, and I talked to my mom about it a little bit. And she was kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, chickens. And my friend messaged me. She was like, hey, it's delivery day for chicks. Do you want some? I was like, I don't know. Give me a sec. And I called mom. And mom was like, oh, yeah, sure. Just grab like 6 chickens. And she didn't know I was serious. So I came home with 6 chicks. And we had that night to figure out where we were going to put them, where they were going to live. And it was chaos. It was awesome.
No, that sounds actually kind of like when you brought home the 12 chickens. We knew we were going to get chickens. We just didn't know it was going to be that day when he was out and he just came home with chickens. And I was like, so what do we do with them now?
Yeah, it was like we bought the chickens and we put them in a plastic tote, and I said, all right, I've got a couple weeks to build a coop for them.
There's nothing like that kind of pressure to get something done.
Oh,
Yes.
But it was great. It was great. So, but yeah, you can never have too many chickens. So I would recommend starting with 6, maybe 12 if you have the room for them. And
Now,
know,
add a
100
0.
seems to have
Always
worked
add
out
a
okay.
0.
and
Add a
then add a
zero.
0.
That's chicken math.
Yeah, I think we are planning on getting 60 broilers this year.
Yeah.
That's what I told them. Anyways, so anyway, Ben, we appreciate you. Our time is up. I know it's late there, so you go get some rest. And thank Nicole for sharing you a little bit with us this evening. You really are a blessing and an inspiration to us, and I will continue to enjoy your content. How can people get a hold of you or find you if they're wanting to see more of your stuff?
The easiest way is to go to homegrownshow.ca. Everything is kind of linked from there, from our website and whatnot. I know the algorithms can be kind of complicated for hiding things, so the best way to get a hold of us is through our website, homegrownshow.ca. But otherwise, we're on all of the social medias.
Awesome. And you guys, are you still working on that cookbook, or is that out yet, or like what's going on with that?
So Nicole is working on regular recipes. It's something that we struggle so hard that I love what I do, but monetizing it, as you know, through YouTube and stuff gets very difficult. Like we want to share and we want to teach people as much as possible, but there's a lot of time and effort that goes into a lot of this filming stuff and producing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out what's the best way to do it and to put out as much content as we can while still being able to afford living. And so we're working on it. And if you do go to the website on the blog portion, there's some amazing recipes that Nicole has there already. We're working on a few different streaming platforms that we're going to get the show out onto. And we're really excited about this year. Even we've partnered with a couple of sponsors for a couple of different shows that I'm working on, which is going to be so fun to be able to teach people about hunting, about homesteading, about permaculture. And this year is going to be amazing. So I'm excited to see what you guys have got going on. And I'm excited for the messes that I'm going to get into.
Man, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm sure you're already planning for probably another 1,200 chickens or so this year, you think?
Something like that. I mean, it depends on how many zeros I'm allowed to go with.
Yeah. Well, tell people to get on your website, buy your merch so that you can buy more chickens.
That's right.
And have a more enjoyable experience with them. So, all right, man. Well, you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I'll see you around and catch you on YouTube, Facebook, and all those other good places. All righty.
You'll be in my comments. You always make fun of me in my comments section.
He makes fun of everybody.
I'm really good at that, so I apologize. I know that you've got a good sense of humor, so.
Oh yeah, I love a good sarcasm. It just the banter back and forth. Oh baby.
Oh yeah. So sometimes I can come across as a little crass.
Yeah, you really have to.
So I gotta know my audience, but
Yeah.
it's nice to find somebody that can handle my dry humor. That good old Canadian, like, dry humor kind of thing. So, all right, man. Well, you have a good one, and I think that's about all. Unless you've got anything
I appreciate it.
No, thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on and chatting with us and helping people know what to expect starting a homestead. So, all righty. So I think that's about all that we've got for today.
All right.
So, thank you, Ben. Thank you, kids, for putting up with everything. Thanks for everybody in the comments. I don't think that we got to get to a whole lot of them, but we'll go back through and read them and appreciate everybody. So, next week, are we going to be on?
I guess so.
We're not going anywhere, have any trips planned or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So next week, I'll figure out what the topic's going to be.
All right.
I think I've got an idea for it. And we will, yeah, we'll see you next week. Wednesday, 6:30 Central Time. Thank you so much. We will see you on the next video.